you ever considered like production of other genres and stuff? Is it something you've dabbled with or mucked around with as well?
Can't say I've dabbled with much outside of the hip hop R&B
Yeah,
kind of area.
yeah,
Like no one's given me that job yet.
Yeah.
Say, hey, come and produce my band.
yeah,
You know, that hasn't happened, but I'm quite keen. That'd be the next thing that I would like to do is recording from scratch.
Yeah.
You know, get a band in.
Yeah.
With the song, track everything, mix. You know,
Mm.
produce. Like work with a live band. I haven't done that.
Mm.
So yeah, I'd like to do that.
So now where you're using Logic, you said that the process has changed a little bit, where it's all molding into your writing and engineering at the same time. Are you doing more of the actual hands-on engineering as well?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
over the years, obviously, much more time spent using the software, a lot more knowledge of how to achieve the results that I want,
Yeah,
and yeah, just being more hands-on, you know.
Mm.
So sculpting the sound of my tracks much more before I pass it on to an engineer to like do the finishing
Yep.
mix, which I still do use an engineer every time. I just think it just adds another notch when you've
Mm.
got a guy whose entire life is dedicated to Sonics, you know.
Yeah.
Because I get a little bit careless. Well, it's only care to a point.
Mm.
I'm like, yep, that's the song, man. And then I'm like, that'll sound good for now. And then I'm like, okay, I want to put this out. Let me give it to someone to just polish it. Yeah.
independent set of ears as well. I
Yeah,
guess.
another set of ears, man. It helps.
Hmm.
It really helps. But I think nowadays, the technology that's accessible is of such, it's the pro level stuff is now consumer, accessible. It's consumer price for
Yeah.
pro gear.
Yeah.
And so you're finding tons of more younger producers and guys who've just come into the game in the last 3-4 years. I don't think they'd even think to use another engineer.
Mm.
They just go and buy another plugin
Yeah,
to do that job.
yeah,
Or whatever they need to add to their, artillery so
Mm.
that they can get the sound right. Whereas, I'm doing a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm not really spending time learning how to use all the plugins.
yeah. So is that? I mean, I know for a lot of like your houses, your drum and bass and stuff, it is that all in one kind of guy doing everything in a studio.
Mm.
For a lot of hip hop guys, is that now the case as well, or are they still working with engineers, or?
Yeah, I think more and more so. It's guys doing their own stuff. If you're talking big top tier major major label guys, I'm sure they're using engineers.
Yeah,
And they're getting the benefit of that
yeah,
because they have a budget.
Hmm.
But 98% of the rest of us don't have access
Yeah.
to that, and therefore, you have to put in your own time and mix your own tunes.
Mm.
And some records come out mixed by the producer,
yep,
and some records come out mixed by someone else and
Yep.
produced by the producer. Kanye West doesn't mix his own stuff.
Mm.
Dr. Dre does.
yeah,
He's super old school, but he's just obviously,
Hmm.
or otherwise he just takes the credit because he's got enough weight behind it. He's probably got someone there engineering it,
piles of engineers
and then it's like
underneath that is
mixed
head-
by Dre.
yeah,
It's like,
head engineer.
maybe he's doing what I do. Maybe he's telling them how to mix
Yeah.
it, and it's someone else turning the knobs. I don't know.
I
He has
mean,
the
I
credit.
think it's something you've seen on. I remember years ago, I think it was a Neptune's album and stuff, and there was a Pro Tools engineer, a Logic engineer, a recording engineer, and everyone had these different roles,
Yeah.
but they were probably sitting above that whole lot, making sure that
That it's
it was
all consistent.
coordinating.
They're an interesting one because I've always noted that. I always used to like to look. I'd see DJ Premier, and then his engineer would be Eddie Sancho,
Mm.
and then you'd see Timbaland, and his engineer would be Jimmy Douglas.
Yeah.
Until very recently.
Yeah,
But then you see the Neptunes, and it could be anyone,
mm.
but their records always sounded the same.
yeah,
I thought that was awesome. I'm like, they must be, it's probably Chad, because Pharrell's always singing and coming up with melodies. I think Chad's sculpting the sound and making
Yeah.
sure the records are consistent,
there's a consistency in there.
even though they still get someone else to mix it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, have you been? I occasionally see. Have you gone back? I think you've picked up you've got the SP 1200 now.
Yeah.
Has there been other bits of gear that you've kind of gone back and collected that
Yeah.
you wanted?
Yeah, it was more just because they were tools that have always been used in hip hop, and I kind of wanted them for my personal museum.
Yeah.
So I went and got the ASR10 Ensoniq keyboard, the SP 1200 by Emu, and the Roland TR-808.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got originals of all of those. And there's probably a couple other things I want to get, but I had to stop.
There's always a list.
Yeah, 'cause you buy these things, man, and then to be honest, I bought it with every intention of using it. I'm like, yeah, I gotta get this SP1200. It's gonna be the best thing I ever get. This is gonna be awesome. I get it home, I start to use it. I'm like, this is incredibly frustrating, and it's technology from '87, and I have like technology from 2010. Here, this is way better. I'll use this, you know. And so I just don't use it, and it just sits there looking cool and not doing anything, which is kind of embarrassing. I've never made a beat on it.
Are you still on the MC2000 now? Have you moved to something else now, or?
Well, I've been on that 5000 for about a year.
Right.
The big one, big black 5000, and now I just got Machine, which I got like literally 2 weeks ago.
So for the new album, it's mostly 5000 stuff?
The new album, still most of the beats, I'd say half to 2/3 of the beats on that record were started on the MPC 2000. So like maybe the main loop and the drums, pretty much always the drums are on there. And then I'll track it into Logic on my system, and there'll be some of the basses were synth basses, like soft synths. I don't even know, like just whatever comes standard with Logic 8. That's what I had. What is it? It's up to 9 now. Just got 9. Yeah, I don't even know what the name of the plugins. Just budget ones. And then there's a lot of live bass as well. I got Evan to play like bass lines. That I've worked them out on the keyboard, like on the synthesizer, and then go, that's kind of the line, can you play that? So he'd play it, and then I'd be like, yeah, and then he'd fill and do different things. I'd be like, that filling was cool, do that here, and tell him what to play. There's a song called Dance With You, which I chopped up the loop, chopped up the sample on MPC, and then recorded just the sample into Logic, and then programmed the drums as audio in Logic. Just grabbed the kick and snare and placed it, and did all that. And then I played I had the hi-hats from the Triton keyboard and actually just played them live, so it would have different expression, and then just grabbed like a bar of that and looped that, and then at the end of the mixdown, scrapped it all and put in new drums because I hated it. It didn't sound right. Yeah, like literally, changed that in Cubase. And then when I have examples of that, like that's happened like 3 times on this album. Once we got to the final mixdown, maybe the sounds that I'd used just weren't standing up. They weren't knocking the way I wanted. I was like, man, I really thought. Maybe it was just because where I was making beats, like the actual position of the room and how the speakers are set up. The kick drum was kicking a certain way, but then once I put it in Evan's system and he's got the room set up real nice, I can really hear what's going on with my sounds. And I'm like, it doesn't sound like what it should sound like, and it should sound like that now. So we'd have to use, we were using, I think we might have used Melodyne to determine turn audio to MIDI.
Yep.
Can you do that in Melodyne? Yeah, we use Melodyne.
Well, the new Cubase will do it as well.
And the new Cubase. So we're just using Cubase and turn the audio to MIDI, and then just go through different samples, like until we find the right sound. So you can basically replace it.
You're always working back to samples. Then you're not going to try and fix it with EQs and all this stuff. It's always back to the source.
Yeah, for me, it's a lot to do with the source. But there's so much you can do with EQ as well. So much you can do, but when you've tried all those options and you're like, it's still not doing it, working. It's like sometimes like that's just not the sound, man. Like that particular kick drum is not going to give you the character that you want, or that particular snare. If you want a clap that's like, really loose, and you've got something that's like a short 808 kind of clap, it's 2 different sounds. And then you could tell an engineer all day, nah, man, it's got to sound more loose. You got to make it more live sound. He's like, it's wrong. It's not the sound, you got to change it. So to be aware of that and know. Sometimes you just got to change your sound, and don't be too precious. You just got to change it, and you get the result a lot quicker than trying to turn, the blue thing orange. It ain't gonna be orange; it's blue.
But 10 plugins sitting in there, and it's
you can have every plugin in the world; it still comes out blue. To change it, orange one. There you go.
That's like a hip hop thing, really. Is just working from that source and that sample. Right?
Yeah, definitely. It's very much a hip hop thing. It's all about find the right sound in the first place. If you get it right in the first place, then all the extra stuff you do is a benefit. It's going to make it bigger and better. Rather than take a little signal and then run it through this and then turn this up and then compress this and then add more of this and then do that, and then it comes out sounding like something else. Some people can do that really well. So like for me, I'll just get it right in the first place, hopefully. Yeah.
So you obviously must also listen to a lot of music, and so who are some of the producers you actually kind of find influential to your sound?
Producers, there's so many. There's all the classics in hip hop. There's Premier, DJ Premier, Dr. Dre, Jay Dilla, the RZA. The going back to stuff that inspired me when I was a kid. It's there's people like Rick Rubin and the Bomb Squad with Public Enemy. Prince Paul, who did the De La Soul first album, it was amazing. The Beat Miners, the list goes on. The Beat Nuts, yeah, all those hip hop guys that dig for records. And then when you get into the more house or electronic world, it's people with the same kind of roots, you know, like Armand Van Helden, Kenny Dope, Daft Punk.
Yeah.
You know, it's that kind of
Do you
lineage.
find yourself, when you're doing a mix down, for example, at home, do you find yourself referencing some of those tracks and saying, does this stand out?
Yeah, absolutely. I used to do that a lot, especially in my early career, like my first two albums, well, mainly the Big Things and then Scribes album. I'd have other records like right next to it in the session.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, okay, for mixes. So I'd get all of our song done, and then I'd be like, okay, this Just Blaze song, or like, this Jay-Z song that Just Blaze did, that's got the sound and the energy that I want, and it's kind of in the same area. So I'd be mixing our one, or me and Chris would be doing it for a while. 45 minutes, an hour goes by, I'm like, just check back, listen to that, and we listen to that other track and be like, okay, and then go back to our mix and be like, oh man, our snare is like crazy loud and sharp, and it actually should sit back and it'll give it that vibe that we want. So we just A and B, and I'm a big advocate of that kind of thing, especially when you're still new to mixing and you want to sculpt the sound and have it be consistent with the other shit that's out there. Just compare as much as you can. Like even when you're making the beat, if you want, be like, how, where should this sample sit in relation to the vocals? Like listen to a song that you like that's similar. How have they got it? Oh, it's sitting way back. You might think it's right forward, but actually it's way back. Things like that.